algunos amigos como la arquitecta en camp de l'Ajuntament de Barcelona, Vicente Guallà, alguns antics reconeguts professors de la casa, com en Cristià Genís i altres, que ens acompanyeu també per aquí. Bona nit a tothom i permiteu-me, antes de dar la palabra a nuestros invitados, agradecer ante todo a la Fundació Mies de Rohe, a través de su directora, de Giovanna Carnevali, su absoluta generosidad y acuerdo, gracias al cual este acto hoy es posible. Sin duda, sin este acuerdo, que seguramente ella después os podrá explicar de una manera más pormenorizada, entre la Fundación Mies de Rohe y la Escuela de Arquitectura y el convenio con el que nos hemos comprometido a ejercer en el futuro toda una serie de acciones, esta conferencia difícilmente sería posible. Y también lo sería esta exposición que habéis visto aquí en el exterior y que de alguna manera hoy podríamos decir que se inaugura. Dentro de estos acuerdos, creemos que es interesante para nuestra escuela situaciones como la que ha suscitado. Hemos ofrecido nuestro espacio a la Fundación Mies para que pueda realizar durante estos días pasados el jurado de los premios Mies van der Rohe, de la European Prize of Europe, de más de 420 proyectos, de los cuales se han seleccionado la cuarentena y posteriormente 5 seleccionados últimos, que no sabremos hasta dentro de unos meses. Y a cambio hemos tenido el placer de poder contar con nosotros durante este mes con esta espléndida exposición en nuestro vestíbulo y al mismo tiempo poder contar con un invitado ilustre y miembro de este jurado como es el arquitecto italiano Cino Zucchi. Quería aprovechar para hacer una propuesta a la directora de la Fundación, que más allá de que esta selección, después de 4 días encerrados aquí, me consta que con catering para que no se vieran los miembros del tribunal para no recibir presiones, han acordado esta selección. Pensaba que podría ser simpático que, como sucede en el Festival de Teatro de Edimburgo, ¿no?, que hay también el Fringe Festival, que adquiere ya una dimensión tanto más notoria que el propio festival, que de los 3.000 estudiantes que constituyen esta escuela, ¿por qué no aprovechar la situación excelente de contar entre nosotros con este material durante todo este mes de febrero para poder realizar también un concurso propio, un concurso con nuestros estudiantes que quizá pueda permitir evaluar comparativamente nuestros intereses, los intereses de nuestra escuela a través de nuestra comunidad de estudiantes en comparación con los intereses del jurado oficial. Quizás, si estuviese aquí en la Fundación, podrían emitirse conjuntamente los resultados de los que eventualmente podría haber alguna coincidencia. Bien, es algo que dejo aquí y solamente cuatro palabras sobre Cino Zucchi antes de ceder la palabra a la directora de la Fundación Mies van der Rohe, Giovanna Carnevali. Obviamente una manera oficial de poderle presentar es hablar de que es graduado en el MIT, posteriormente el máster en el Politécnico de Milano, que actualmente es catedrático de proyectos de diseño urbano. He sido profesor invitado en múltiples universidades, que ha recibido tantos premios, desde el primer Premio Nacional de Arquitectura del 1980, un Premio Nacional de Arquitectura, un arquitecto napolitano que, por cierto, desde la revista Departamento dedicamos hace años esta monografía sobre su obra, no suficientemente conocida, hasta sin duda los premios conocidas, el spa en Bolzano, que da título a esta conferencia de City is not a tree, que yo acostumbré no desvelar su contenido y que Cino nos explicará a continuación, hasta remontando la primera vez que fue nominado en los premios Mies de Rohe, quizá por su proyecto más icónico, ¿no? Quizá de los más reconocidos, que sin duda ha adquirido esta condición más icónica, como era las viviendas, el grupo residencial de las viviendas en la Zúrich, en Venecia. Podríamos presentar esa obra que sin duda, y más viendo aquí a uno de los componentes del PER, ¿no? Aquel concurso que hizo famoso y desgraciadamente desaparecido los premios de Oscar Busquets, aquellas obras que aguantaban también el paso de los años y que solamente se conocerían hasta el cabo de los 10 años de su proyecto. Bueno, seguramente esta obra de Cino Zucchi podría ser sin duda una candidata al premio década, pues por lo bien que soporta el paso del tiempo. No, una manera de poder explicar diversamente a esta condición icónica de la obra, me lo recordaba con el amigo Ricardo Bacordo, que le tenemos hoy aquí, y quiero aprovechar para saludarle y para recordaros que Ricardo es nuestro profesor invitado durante este semestre de ETSAB, que mañana a las 12:30 hará una conferencia de Lección Inaugural en la sala de grados, y a la que estáis todos vosotros invitados. Pues en este encuentro que tuvimos con nuestros estudiantes en Lisboa durante estos días pasados, Ricardo como anfitrión nos confesaba algo relacionado con el maestro César, ¿no? Quizás relacionado también con su condición solitaria. Nos decía que era frecuente que cuando él llegaba a una ciudad, más que buscar una guía de arquitectura o de recorrer los edificios en concreto, lo que hacía era deambular erráticamente por la ciudad, y que era una manera de descubrir nuevos territorios, de las memorias de esos lugares, y esa era la manera que más le seducía de reconocer algo que en absoluto tiene por qué ser menos profundo que otras visitas más interesantes. Yo me he tomado la misma, quizás siguiendo esa analogía que explicaba Ricardo Bacordo. He hecho algo parecido recientemente en la biblioteca, ¿no? de nuestra escuela, y he encontrado un par de libros de Cino Zucchi que quizá ilustren tanto mejor seguramente algunos ejercicios caligráficos que han salido a raíz de su obra más reconocida de la Zúrich. Uno es este fantástico libro del cual él es autor, de esta pareja de arquitectos milaneses, ciudad natal, son Masnau y Bender, una pareja que para muchos de nosotros que estamos en la redacción de la revista ETSAB siempre han estado como uno de los eternos candidatos para tener una monografía, porque consideramos que son unos inmensos arquitectos que no han tenido seguramente la suficiente divulgación, conocimiento que se merecería. Pero es probable que indagando dentro de estas páginas y viendo algunos edificios como estos patios, ese patio de la vía Xenofonte de Masnau y Bender, uno puede reconocer también este espléndido acceso por el cortile, por la parte interior de esas viviendas que hablábamos de la Zúrich, ¿no? O tirando más para atrás, incluso este otro espléndido libro del cual también es autor nuestro invitado de hoy, que es la arquitectura de cortile milanés, ¿no? La arquitectura de los patios milaneses de mediados del 16 y del 17. Es muy probable que ahondando de manera como la que haría César, más angulada en la obra de Cino Zucchi, quizás menos inmediata, pero quizás más agradecida, después de las lecturas de pasajes, sino todos estos libros, pudiésemos entender mejor mejor la obra de un arquitecto particularmente reflexivo. Yo simplemente os daría un último consejo, que es el que tomaba como prevención Sisa en sus viajes, que lo único que hacía como salvoconducto es llevar en el bolsillo la dirección del hotel para poder volver después de deambular en estos caminos. Y yo creo que es el mejor sistema para convertirse en un arquitecto y no en erudito. Volver al punto de origen y aplicarlo interesadamente en nuestra obra. Gracias. Y cedo la palabra a Giovanna Carnevali, agradeciendo una vez más su colaboración en este proyecto académico.
Bueno, tampoco quiero ser muy larga porque efectivamente Cino está esperando poder hacer su conferencia. Yo quiero agradecer sobre todo, no solo de ETSAB, pero también todos vosotros que estéis aquí, que es el principio del segundo semestre del año académico. Yo como directora de la Fundación os quiero decir que no sé cuántos de vosotros conocen la Fundación Mies de Rohe. Quizás se conocen más fuera a Europa que a Barcelona. Y es un poco un reto que tenemos ahora nosotros, es intentar de hacer acciones y colaborar con vosotros para poder también difundir y promover una arquitectura que estamos haciendo aquí en nuestra ciudad. De hecho, la Fundación Mies de Rohe lleva ya 25 años organizando un premio cada 2 años. Esta es la 14ª edición del premio. Y de hecho tiene una base de datos que se puede decir representa, refleja un poco lo que es Europa, lo que ha sido Europa desde 1988 hasta 2015 ahora. Es un timeline muy interesante porque se construyó Europa en aquel momento desde la caída de Berlín. Y esto se puede notar a través de nuestros proyectos, de los proyectos que tiene la Fundación. Este año tuvimos 420 obras y muy diferente entre ellas. Y la verdad que nosotros este año, a partir de este año, ya no queremos solo organizar premios, sino queremos también promover y divulgar buenas actividades, también investigación con la universidad. Hoy, de hecho, con Tongi y la ETSAB firmamos un convenio de colaboración durante 2 años para colaborar con un postgraduate degree y empezará a partir de septiembre de 2015. Y queremos activar todas aquellas actividades relacionadas con la buena arquitectura. Tenemos unos valores que tenemos que defender y salir por esto, o sea, son valores que de hecho representamos como son un reflejo en la Fundación de una arquitectura ampliada, lo que nosotros siempre decimos que está dentro del ADN de Mies de Rohe, de Barcelona, de trabajar desde el concepto de un objeto hasta el metabolismo urbano. Y está dentro también del ADN de la Fundación misma, o sea, Mies, Barcelona y Fundación. Tenemos unos problemas éticos, tenemos que intentar de transmitir nosotros como organización de un premio todos aquellos tipos de trabajos, valores, de maneras de trabajar que nosotros europeos exportamos hacia afuera. Imaginaros a China, lo que ha pasado, digamos, en los últimos 10 años. Estudiantes que últimamente han sacado la carrera y están yendo a trabajar fuera. La manera de cómo trabajamos las viviendas, los espacios públicos, las infraestructuras, trabajamos con densidades. Bueno, pues la base de datos refleja todo esto y os invitamos a trabajar con esta base de datos y a partir de ahí desarrollar más investigación y la Fundación os apoyará también a nivel de publicaciones. Hoy también es la cloenda, y ahora sí que Cino te lascio la palabra, es la cloenda de la primera reunión del jurado y digamos vulgarmente se puede decir que tenemos los 40 principales. Y es verdad, Jordi, como tú dices, que os invitamos a todo el mundo en hacer una votación de ahí tenéis fuera los proyectos. Es la primera vez que se expone de forma pública todos los proyectos seleccionados este año del premio, los 420 los tenéis fuera. Podéis, ahora no sé muy bien cómo lo podéis hacer, es a nivel informático, en internet, esto lo miráis. A nosotros nos interesa mucho saberlo, somos muy curiosos y a lo mejor lo podemos después pasar a los miembros del jurado. Sí, nos encerramos y la verdad que, a ver, la decisión, y con esto te dejo la palabra de verdad, para nosotros de preguntar a ti, Cino Zucchi, de ser el presidente del jurado no es solo por un campeonato italiano, ni mucho menos, sino porque conozco tu obra desde hace años, desde cuando, bueno, también acababa la carrera, digamos así, porque tampoco eres muy mayor, mucho menos, pero yo no soy tan joven, ¿no? Pero digamos que tienes la gran capacidad y de tener en ti se refleja tanto, se une una cultura humanista y una visión, una manera de reflexionar muy científica. Y esto te hace una persona muy completa, ¿no? También hemos visto en estos días en la reunión de jurado. Hemos pedido tanto a Cino Zucchi como presidente y a los demás miembros del jurado de que no hablaran de sus obras.
Flattered by the fact that being a jury was a very nice experience, because juries are places to confront values. And I remember a phrase by Albrecht. He said, "We cannot teach civilization in a university course that ends up with an exam. Civilization is something where values are implicit rather than explicit." And today, I don't know if we are in civilization anymore, we always are forced to make values explicit. Whenever we do a work, that kind of fine, almost unconscious line where everybody agreed on something is not there anymore. Maybe we can agree on many things, but you always have somehow to, many times, talks about the values and not just the goals. And this is an effort we have to make today, and architecture is at the crossroads of many things. You have to please many people. I spend my time not drawing, but making meetings with the city, with the fire people, with the client, with the soprintendente al monumento, I don't know how to say it, the conservatores. So that need to express and negotiate, it's very important. In a way, the city is also the place where this happens. Once a lady came to me and said, "Professor Zucchi, you made a portico under my building. I want to close it because people in the night can come and play bongos or, rapers." And I said, "Lady, you are in the city. And the city is a place where more things happen. If you want to just complete privacy, you should buy a little villa in the suburbs." The nice things about the city is also that it's for everybody, even with the conflicts. So the lecture of tonight is just, I don't want to call it theoretical. To me, it's great because I'm a practicing architect, but in this occasion I felt it was nicer, also because of the occasion of the Mies van der Rohe Prize, not so much to show my work, but to talk about the text. Then in the end, I put some slides because I know you're doing a course about vivienda and housing, so I don't think we have time. So my lecture is just, let's say, about categories. I left some, I don't know if the students were a little bit disappointed not to see the work, so we see, I think we don't get that. But basically, it starts from a reflection. Why in the last 20 years of architecture in the schools, we've been talking about mountains, clouds, butterflies. The word building is it's like saying poo-poo. I don't know, we cannot call a building anymore. Why are we so obsessed by nature? So, my lecture is about the obsession of nature in city and architecture theory. Can I have the lights on, down, please, a little bit? No? So, there was some kind of there. So I start from a very, very simple statement. Everybody likes historical cities. Somehow we've been building it. So it's an artifact. It's somebody made by man, but we feel it as a second nature. And the problem of protection, of being in a room, being protected from the weather, from having privacy and the issue of being together. We have a feeling that the traditional city solves this in its own structure, puts together the room, the house, and the square and the street. This image is very strong and could be almost a kitsch image. It can be used in a bad way because it touches very deeply our feeling. This feeling of the city as a second nature. Then today we're talking a lot about sustainability, ecology. We also have a feeling that if you take a settling, this is a fisherman's village in Mexico, and you leave it for 30 years, its material will go back to become nature again. It was almost biodegradable, one could say. So, this is somehow, again, something very rooted and something which can be used, again, by an advertisement agency of travel. And even the cultural state of the city, this is the famous Nordic plan, even what Venturi used, is represent the center of Rome, where the white is somehow the public space, and also represent the white, the churches and the courtyards, and the black is like almost an ant farm. We have the impression is like the result of a natural process, in this case, the crystallization of a gelatin crystal. But then there was a moment where somehow the traditional city did not fit our needs anymore. It was too small. You have the railways. This could be dated something around 1850 or so. It seems that people were trying to expand it. You have to give housing to a lot of people coming from the countryside to be factory workers. This is in a way a very, I would say, Marxist image. The factory and all the order workers in the nice suburbs. But this city is the city of engineers. Even Serdar, I think he was an engineer. Or maybe say the city planning of this time, it was the city of sewers, of infrastructure. But we thought applying, one could say, Taylorism to city planning, we would at least generate an order new city. But then something happened. It seems that things did not go exactly the way we planned it to. The city, which was meant to have order, it revealed some kind of clash, chaos, disorder. This is applied by Cosito and Costa, the metropolis, 1959. So, the traditional categories of even urban design, perspective, the grid, the rhythm, that somehow tried to apply beauty to the city planning. There was a movement of city beautiful during the 8th state of the Columbia's, the Chicago exposition, like the Chicago time, where that kind of planning was expanded on a very large scale. It seems not to be applicable to the spectacle of a contemporary metropolis of, like, if you go in the east of the world. And this is like a bit like Jurassic Park. We made this thing, but it's sort of escaping our own control. Probably to describe this city, you should use more the categories of the sublime more than the beautiful. For example, proportion and scale, which is a typical device of the classical aesthetic theory, this cannot be applied. So we create this, but we almost have fear, say, what happened somehow. And this is the first generation also has another problem, the problem of confining the city. I mean, this shapelessness of the city, this is Milano from the infrared satellite, has all the character of the melanoma, symmetry, order, regularity, total diameter. The city as the cancer of the earth is the first generation really who has fear that we are messing up something. Oops. So, my father in 1965 went to New York and brought me back a book. It's called The World of the Future. It was taken from the Expo of New York. And I think this was the cover of this book, which would represent the way we would live in the future. And it was a model, I think, by general mottos of the future city. To me, this image also represents the way modern urbanistic theory has tried to deal with the problem of the city. In a way, the idea was, let's start from the problem, from looking at the problem itself, solving the function, the function of moving, the function of going to work, the function of maybe living, the function of having fun, getting together. So we analyze all the pieces of the city, and then we try to reassemble it in some kind of organism. But if we did the anatomy of the parts, who would guarantee the physiology of the city? When I was a kid, I thought that we would live in that city, living like the Jetsons, flying with a helicopter. And we found ourselves living in this city instead. Many people try to describe it, they call it middle landscape, città diffusa, città estesa, as it is. And some people compare it to some kind of surrealist movie. I think this is more like TV zapping. Even a child can use the city. We can enter the highway, get out, go play tennis into a bubble, shut ourselves in a residential club, and so on. Maybe go have fun in an entertainment center. So this city works quite well. We deserve it in a way. We built it every day, and it works. The only thing we're missing this is that the specialization of the parts somehow left the in-between, which is somehow the black hole, the place where the gypsies go, which is done by the separation. One could say in Venice, one does not need a playground because the whole city is a playground. So we are building a city, but we nostalgically live by the overlapping of things that historical city does. But then, in this new modernist planning, who would guarantee, in a way, the good functioning of the city? So this. The idea that the city could behave as an organism, this obsession about, for example, circulation. This is the scheme Louis Kahn did for Philadelphia. It's interesting because we have in mind these big round monuments, I could say, of Louis Kahn, but Louis Kahn started to totally obliterate the city and think the city as a circulation pattern, in this case of cars. Oops. And in a way, Le Corbusier, this is his famous sketch for Rio, understood that the scale of the circulation and infrastructure could jump the scale of the city and go directly to confront itself with nature. The architect was sort of the king of the world, was the master. But in this case, new profession came out. The traffic engineer who could generate mathematical formulas for the speed of the cars, and the landscape architect who would go together. So the architect is in the corner crying, "Ooh, nobody wants me anymore." Somehow he's not good in the game anymore. And this biological metaphor, this is Victor Gouel, the ideal city. It really represents the way we are looking at it. Something modernist planning tried to reinvent, I would say, the city. And this image of the cluster of the tree keeps on coming up again. This is Bruno Tau in the book the Dissolution of the City. So you would almost imagine almost hippie communities clustered around paths. This is Udo Schwarz, who compares the new planning of the city to the leaf of the tree. This is Ludwig Ingersheimer, where he goes to America. Then he theorizes, in a way, the American suburb. The American suburb is based on the dead-end street. So if someone lives here and is friendly with this guy, has to take the car, go here, on a roundabout, go here. This is very typical. It's a very different genetic structure than the European city, which is based not necessarily on the grid, but some kind of continuity of the places. And in a way, the Team 10 tried to reason again on some kind of organicity of the city, but also again this scheme. This is Toulouse Mirail. They recently made an interesting sociological say, search the way people used to lose the eye, but somehow, in a way, these schemes, which are quite fascinating from the formal point of view, try to put together a tree structure with some kind of rereading of the historical city. So, in this very seductive sketch by the Smith, analysis of Peter Smith from Berlin, you really see the total, I would say, even non-comprehension of modern theory in respect to your city. This is the Reichstag. The Island Museum is somewhere around here. You can see the Brandenburg, this is the Tiergarten. This is Friedrichstadt, you know, this is Marienplatz today. And what they do, it's, let me see, the Altes Museum is somewhere. This is the Altes Museum, and this is the Pergamon Museum. You know, the cheapest just redid this. So this is the island of the museum. Just to say that they transformed the historical grid into urban highways. Then they built some kind of almost Venice-like pedestrian bridge. And from the formal point of view, I'm very fascinated. It's almost this building, but can you really treat the city as a gigantic organism? I don't think you can really do that. And the name of my lecture coming from this is Christoph Alexander in 1964 wrote an article which was called "A City is Not a Tree." He would consider the tree, say, topological diagram where single dwellings, they go into neighborhood units, they go in villages, in rings and new towns. This is exactly what you were saying before, or no. And he's saying, to me, this tree diagram, where each node is connected to the next one just by one line, is too hierarchical and simple. He says, the historical city works more as he would call a semi-lattice, where each point has more than one relationship to the other. So he criticizes this tree diagram as being, in a way, dogmatic and mechanistic. The second thing I wanted to talk about is some kind of split that happens in the, say, again, the second half of the 19th century between the people who produce the city, which are the technicians, and the people who perceive the city, who are the poets who bring Baudelaire, who bring Asensio, and they go around the city. So, in a way, the flaneurs start realizing that the place is of technique, in this case a station, has some kind of pathos. So we started to paint. The city becomes a painterly subject, objects of technique, as it would be almost objects of nature. You know, this sequence of the Rouen Cathedral by Monet reveals us a very big thing. We don't need Times Square. And in a way, the cathedral can be white, can be still, because it's the sun which makes it change color. So this is a Swiss painter who, in a way, he hitchhikes and goes into the highways and paints the highway in every moment of the day. So the highway is a picturesque subject. And some people try to find an aesthetics about it. This is the famous The View from the Road of Kevin Lynch and things, where he tried to describe the phenomenology of driving a car, which is almost sexy. I think we love cars because the cars, in a way, resolves a big problem. We like to be protected, but we also like to be free and wander. And in the old times, you know, the English songs were about people becoming sailors and go around the world, and the girl crying there in the little village. So the alternative was stay in a little village and be bored, or go around the world, but that's a dangerous life. In a way, the car is a moving uterus. We can shut the thing, so there's some protection about it, but also freedom. It puts together into things. This is why we love cars. And in this protected bubble, you know, we can go around, we can move, and we have almost the feeling of almost a sensuous move, and the argument of Kevin Lynch that we need fixed point to orient ourselves. So we have some kind of moving sequence perception, and he thinks that monuments, in this case, the grain elevators like the Corbusier published in Personal Architecture, or the more traditional monuments like the Capitol, are fixed points into a moving sequence. Before the computer, he drew with his own hands what he saw from the windshield on the Boston Expressway, and even tried to make some kind of also musical notation for this new way of perceiving things. This is Alison Smithson. This has been published, republished recently. AS, Alison Smithson DS, doing a little bit the same thing, representing views from the windshield, but also it's like a navigator in a way. We look and we also have a mental map of the way we should go. Today the computer made us used to this sort of sequence of things. You know, if you have in the spaghetti western, you have just one gun, so you have to go like this and be very precise. But you have, if you have a machine gun, you can kill 100 people. So if you have, once you made a 3D model, you have 1,000 views and one should be good. So you use with the machine gun of the, this frame. And there are architectures which are made to be seen in a fast state. This is Jean Nouvel's, it's called the Chilometro Rosso, the red kilometer next to, between Milano and Bergamo. And he made, basically it's an office park financed by the person who does the brakes for the Ferrari. So he built this actually quite nice parking on the side of the highway, and then this is a screen, also a noise screen, and then there's an office park here. And you know, like when you write things on the highway, you stretch to be read, you know, like right. So this is a stretched, I would say, architecture. And there's a song by Leonard Cohen, it's called Please Don't Pass Me By, I'm blind but you can see. And then Leonard Cohen goes on. In a way, this is, I would say, the Please Don't Pass Me By architecture, the X-Factor architecture. You know, you have just 1 second to catch the eye of the jury, of your girlfriend, you know, or what would you be the girlfriend, but you have to be very fast. So you have to dress very sexy. You know, and this is an architecture which is projected to give perception. It's very worrying, you know, please don't pass me by, I would say, because these people are going really fast. So I wanted to make a little history of this perceptual mode in the design. This was a Greek architect from last century, called Doxiadis. He was obsessed by the disorder of the Greek sites, in this case the Propylaea, the Parthenon, the Epileo, and he had a theory, I think it was totally invented, that he spent his life measuring and saying the Greeks would proportion these angles. So all these angles could be square root of 2, the golden section. But he reads one of these. So basically he tried to read the Acropolis as a perspective machine in a way. And one could say there's a history of the idea that architecture can be seen as a producer of sensation. I think the first one who did it is Adriano in the Villa Adriana, which is basically a big souvenir. It's like somebody collecting souvenirs. And this is the Crespi Auditorium by Charles Moore, where a student hostel generates a continuous change of view. This is, I don't want to be blasphemous, but one could call it the first religious theme park by Alessi. Alessi was a mannerist architect, and this is all the scenes of the Passion of Christ, it's the Temple of Solomon, so this. So it was a park, but each chapel had a scene of the life of Christ and you teach, and this is the Buddha Max garden. If Dugan said that the way to do architecture marche à suivre, things to follow, dans la composition du projet quelconque, to the composition of any project. Number 1, you have to put the axis here. Number 2, you have to to the minor axis. Number 3, you have to make the walls. Number 4, you have to plate the column. Number 5 is like drawing a cat. How do you draw a cat? You make a round, you make another round, 2 ears, voila. So this is the way, you know, the Beaux-Arts would work, starting from the plan. But then Stephen Hall, when he did a project for Milano in the Porta Vittoria, he stated the opposite. He says, in a way, classical architecture first draws the plan and then makes the perspective. I will do the reverse. First I draw a perspective and then do a plan. So, in a way, he started from what you see, not from the construction way up. Can we say that Frank Gehry is the nephew of Makimed and White? This idea of generating sensations, an architecture who is perceptual in his mode of doing, isn't somehow rooted in the Anglo-Saxon mind? When Mr. Delvaux was doing this famous pavilion, somebody else was constructing the Pueblo Español. And these are pictures from that time, and this is the way we bathe, we drink some beer. But in a way, this is like a bonsai city. You take all the best pieces of Spain and you put them all together in a condensed way. And it's all made to have, you go through, you have surprises. So this can be seen as an architecture composed on a moving eye, on targets, visual targets, more than on plan. All the techniques today are used in commercial architecture. You have an issue of feeling, you have a Victorian watch together with some peasant, you can have an exchange of the inside with the outside. So, the ideal of the city today can be done. It's called commercial center. This is the first project by Gerbe of the idea of a commercial center in the shape of the city. This is a Google view of the Serravalle outlet. It's in between Genova, Milan, and Torino. It's just next to, say, 2 kilometers from the highway. It's got a big parking, and this is the plan. You arrive, no soldier would be here, no Zorgo, no Peter Pan. You go in, and it's like a Magritte painting. This is an architecture who's exactly the breed between the Milano periphery farmyards and the Genova painting architecture if you go to Portofino. So probably scenographers did it, and they, a regional architecture supposed to be regional is the symbol of Nike, of international brands. This is like a Baroque window or some stemma like this, and then you have Adidas. My son said, Papa, can we go again in the fake city when they sell cheap Nike shoes? It works perfectly, and it's guarded. At 11 o'clock in the night, somebody will shut the door and go out. So, it is this. You have queues along the highway. I mean, you have the illusion. You do the city. It works as a city, but it's a fake city. And actually, these are back-painted windows, the fake windows and the fake flowers. And Mies van der Rohe and Le Corbusier are toning in the tomb, because this is totally the opposite of construction made visible. The foundation, the aesthetic foundation of the modern movement was about truth, skin and bones. So this is the way it's constructed. It's the new wing, because it's very successful at building a new wing. This is the way it's finished. It's a standard product of the main street, but then the same company can have it one in Belgium, one in Las Gozas, and so on. So you can have it all over the world. And then it will be regionalized by icons, in Belgium, you put the Belgian, this and that. So probably the architects, they could go into a bookstore and say, let's see what Thailand architecture is, or Milanese architecture, and they would customize. If commercial centers are imitating, say, the values and the commonplaces of historical cities are imitating shopping centers. This is Locke-Mariquet, is a real medieval abandoned city in France. Somebody bought it, pay the parking, you pay 10 euros to enter, you can buy a soap for grandmother, and to the children you can buy an ice cream in grocery shopping center. And this is Mont Saint-Michel, 11 o'clock in the morning. If you don't have the money to come to Europe, you can go to the Mediterranean bank. It's a joint between Portofino, Florence, and the Aristocats, Paris. My daughter, like it was 5 years ago, said, "Papa, can you give me 20 euros? And I said, "What for?" "I have to go get my jeans cut." I said, "Well, that's the most immoral thing I've ever heard in my life." Yeah, I almost was exactly that. If people are starving and you ask me 20 euros to get a jeans cut. And this is the equivalent of the pre-wash jeans. It's a pre-wash architecture, you're ready. So, it's, today, the simulation, this fact that truth today with materials on that. In a way, the aesthetics of today, if it feels like real, like, silicon mouth, it's real. So I think all the assumptions of if it's pleasurable, it works somehow. This is really, to me, a very big hit against the foundation of the modern movement. When Walt Disney planned Disneyland, he almost, after some years, he planned Epcot. Epcot was supposed to go some kind of city of the future, and also was supposed originally to have 2,000 people living there. This is Disney presenting the plan of Epcot. And Disney, at a certain point, died. You know what was the book found in the hand of Walt Disney when he died? Victor Bruen's The Ideal City. So, there's a connection. The plan of Epcot is the one you see before. There's a connection between modernist planning and this. So, this is original drawings by Disney itself, or Disneyland. You have the best of both worlds. You have Main Street, and you have Adventureland. So, a crocodile is trying to eat you, but it's fake. The perfect union of, let's say, nature and the city. So, the two kitsch architectures are the monorail and Main Street represent the figures, the commercial figures of architecture today. Something which astonishes you with the future, something like a high-techy thing, and something which will show you with the good old things. These are the figures of the people in a way expect these two things, to be excited sometimes, but also be reassured. Maybe excited by the downtown, reassured by their own house. One more category you've been hearing again and again and again and again. Landmark. In a way, in Europe, you would say monument. A monument is something which reminds you of an event, for example. But the landmark can be both a natural one. This is a photo by Fundació Mies, or a man-made one. And the story of the confrontation with the scale of nature can be led back. This is the famous Cenotafio di Newton by Etienne Louis Boulet. In Architecture sur l'art, Etienne Louis Boulet is stating that architecture is the putting representation of nature. Inside the Cenotafio, you could exchange the night for a day. When out was a day, you have little holes that make like a planetarium, and at night you have an auxiliary sphere to make the day. So, the power of man of competing directly with the cosmos. Alfred Schinkel studied mountains. He was trying to understand from the geology some kind of natural law, and Le Corbusier was saying that good architecture is good in every landscape. The Parthenon, the Chartres Cathedral, St. Peter's, and of course himself. Rem Koolhaas defined what is called the auto-monument by scale alone. I think the Leeds defined the concept of auto-monument. A building that by scale is the monument itself. These are the students from the muchos, the constructivist school, where they were trying to, let's say, the professors made the designs and kind of volumes, almost, there's something in between architecture and also sculpture, but one could even say this is an auto monument. So when Leonidov did the people's house, he confronted a figure, a glass pyramid with the dirigible. And this idea of architecture not fitting into nature but continuing is very typical of German expressions. This is Bruno Taut, who he would propose that in Alpine architecture, famous book, an utopian architecture that would complete the landscape. In reality, these are real places. I think this is Portofino, says something here, and this is the mountain as I go to the Lake of Como. I don't know if people in Portofino would be so happy to find this thing, but just to say that the idea that architecture can become topography. This is Hans Bölzing project, and this scale, you really can see the scale of the new metropolis as opposed to the old one. And this is the Schauspielhaus house of Salzburg by Hans Bölzing again. We are wondering every day the sublimity of natural events like Zurga, and this is the interior of the Schauspielhaus house. You know, if the Scala of Milano represents society in a way like you go there to see the opera, but also you see nice women, this, in the German idea, is Wagnerism. You know, in a way, the interior of the Schauspielhaus house would represent almost some kind of natural tragedy. Transported to America, the run to the skyscraper, this is a famous rendering by Huck Fabrics. He was the renderer of the American skyscrapers, and this is a more prosaic materialization of the building rules of a typical block of New York. Made this run of the highest building. This is even, these people are showing that the Titanic is even taller than the old one. So what is our problem? Is it a nail problem? But the idea is also that architecture could colonize every corner of the world. You know, this is again taken from my children's book, The World of the Future, the idea that you will live practically everywhere. So when Rainer Banham and François Lallegré did the House, you know, the environment bubbles, they were very prophetic. At that time, the computer was not even there. But the idea that you could live naked with just a communication center. When at the Osaka fair, the Archie Brown wrote an essay called Osaka-gram, and there were some questions. And one was, do we still need the city or we just need services? It's very interesting how the English utopia, you know, by the Walking Cities, for example, by Archie Brown and so on, Peter Cook, really, this is the first time the idea, once if the city is the place to communicate, you know, you go to the market square also to gossip, not just to buy things. Once you can gossip with this, you need the city or not? A year ago, I was there on the computer, and my wife said, "What are you doing, Cino?" And he said, "I'm chatting with Anna, it's my daughter." I said, "But Anna's in the other room." "Yeah, but I'm chatting there." I was chatting, and I was sending musical files to my daughter, who was in the room, and my wife said, "No, it's impossible." You know? I said, "Okay, we hear it. I just doing my work or something," was sending files. We do that all the time. In the studio, sometimes we send emails in the studio. It's easier than get up. But again, this obsession with nature, this is Unterwasser, looks a bit like the Hobbit village. This is Pikes Peak in Coney Island. This I was driving by and I saw this thing to say it was in Arizona. I said, "Francesca, maybe we should leave the kids and find a new life. Why don't we buy?" And we found ourselves a new life. She wasn't so much. And about the rock shop. But what happens to the buildings? I mean, why is it Jean-Nouvel's projects for Burgos and Tokyo? It's like, you know, camouflage. Why buildings do not have the courage to be buildings anymore? This is MDR-TV, this is Cloud9, this is Spanish people, this is Rachel, and so on. And, you know, this Caspar David Friedrich painting, for some reason, even what is the shape of things, you're wondering what about. This is me at the Futuroscope of Poitiers. It's a theme park. And this image to me, confronted to this image, tells me something that Umberto Eco was saying in his book, Apocalittici Integrati of 1964 again. Apocalyptics and integrated. He was saying an interesting thing. He said, the avant-garde, the artistic avant-garde, were born at the second half of the 18th century to react against the commercialization of art. In a way, the second half of the 18th century, 19th century, sorry, it was, you know, a little bit the key sponkera contribuzione che say. So, the theory of Umberto Eco, that the avant-garde is like, you know, when children use the secret languages not to be understood by parents. Has some kind of different language not to be mistaken with commercial art. But then he says something intelligent. If the avant-gardes try to detach themselves from commercial art is so lively, it's like a fox chase and takes the icons of the avant-garde and makes them things. This is very true. Every time you go to the Biennale, then you switch on TV and 1 year after you see a commercial which is taken by the Bill Viola, or maybe, I remember a commercial by British Airways, it's show Christone. I have many people, friends which are advertising people, they go to the Biennale all the time and they use these resources. So there's a continuous chase. The avant-garde, can we still have the avant-garde? I don't think no. So to say, regardless of the intention of, I'm not talking about investing as a person, I think that this kind of thing shows how fast the icons produced by culture are recycled in entertainment. So is there some kind of objective alliance between so-called avant-garde and entertainment? When I was a kid, I remember Iveskin writing an essay for Galdrosso on the slim book of Teatro del Mondo, and Iveskin wrote The Demon of Analogy, very, very intellectual, Kabbalah-like things. Now, I'm not saying it's his fault. The way we use it is very, very commercial in a way. And this is true also for technique. This is the big panorama of the exposition of exposition in Paris, and this is the globe of Coney Island. Every time the advancement of technique become, in a way, entertainment. You know, the biggest techniques are done when you have the Pink Floyd stage set. That's the biggest technique. In a way, entertainment uses the most advanced of things. And are we promising a new Boulez world with energy, environment, Jean Nouvel? You know, are we promising a techno-pastoral world? The shopping center, they say, the Gamma thing, it ate the city. You know, there's a certain moment buildings started to have the complexity in their belly, and, you know, take all the congestion into the building. So, with a modern commercial center, the world can die, you know, it can maybe a nuclear bomb, but everything happens here. In a way, I'm not saying it's destroying the city, it simulates the city. So, this is a shopping center from by Cesar Felli, it's called the Pacific Design Center, and in a way it's a Maison Domino, but with the interior some kind of net of streets. And in cold countries like in Canada and so on, the grid, what would be, I would say, the concept now at the time, the grid, what is the public space, is left for delivery trucks, and you create a medieval sequences of interior galleries. So that's it. But Can this reproduce the city? These are quite eerie photos of abandoned, a photographer who goes into abandoned commercial centers and things which are quite specifically designed for that. And in a way they work for people getting together. Once they don't function anymore, they totally abandon. And we have a feeling, without being too romantic, that this is not exactly what happened to the historical city. This is the famous square split. The Diocletian Palace still being able to host things which were not planned that way. And to finish up a little bit, one could say that in the American idea, if the shopping center is the heart, all the living cells is the single family houses. You know, what you need to be happy is just a house connected to some kind of highway. And Eros Ramazzotti and I thought there's something so unique to it. Today, there's a little bit of realization that this model, shopping center plus suburb, maybe is not the right. The issue of dense cities is always been an interesting issue also of modernism. You know, this is the famous Le Corbusier comparing the Redan with the density of this purpose. This is a picture I took with my iPhone today, right after here, in the famous model of the Gatwa. This is the center of Barcelona, the Plan Sedan, and the proposed addition. It's like three animals, three genetic things that cannot really die if not by a jump cut. You know, the medieval structure, the grid, and even the scale of it, and the relationship between the street front and the thing. Can we have this together? This seems like it's almost a fight, or like a religious, almost people maybe be forced to be next to each other, but really not be able to adapt, if not by just cutting anything like this. But Leslie Martin, he was an English architect. He made a very sophisticated book trying to make an equation about density and transportation and so on, all these mathematical formulas. But then in the end he said, okay, we can look at numbers, you know, all this sort of data, you know, the data graphic, infographic is very fashionable, but all these were modeled done by his students exactly the same density. So with the same density you can get a very compact block-like city, a structure of courtyards, towers of this. So this and this, they exactly have the same density. So he said, in the end, it's still a choice. What kind of city do we want? This is a diagram showing the relationship between density and energy consumption. In this case, Houston, the very sparse cities, they go 70, 75 gigajoules. European cities are quite low, so some are here. And this is a quite scientific diagram that took from two different sources to show that the consumption of energy of a suburban house, this is consumption for transportation, and this is consumption for buildings. So this is the consumption of a typical suburban house, of a green suburban house, and this is the worst. So the greenest suburban house consumes much more energy than the worst urban. This is a green urban, one who has all this isolation. So, and this is similar. This is the suburban passive house, urban standard house, and city apartment. So every energy consumption of the worst city apartment is much better than the suburban. It would be a little bit long to explain why, because it's also a question of scale, or how much the surface to volume ratio and so on. Just leave it. So, this question, we see a magazine full of these images, very seductive ones, on trying to put together very high density with this natural ideal. Aren't these images a bit too close to the Victor Gruen model? No, aren't they selling a little bit of some kind of organism, which in a way doesn't tell you how it will survive, react? I mean, they're a little bit just made for the newspaper. So, this is just a picture I took in Place de Vos. It was of course a sunny day, but all this opposition between nature and the city, are we sure that it is an opposition? I mean, can't we have the best of both worlds, a very good, beautiful square and a beautiful garden? So these are just pictures I downloaded yesterday from internet, you know, the crescents of Bath. The Tratto della Valle in Padova is from Baroque times. It was an existing square, rectangular square, and somebody did this. This is the Esplanade in Helsinki. The theater here. People walk here. It has a beautiful cafe here in the market. This is the beautiful Cour in Aix-en-Provence, and basically this cathedral of trees is marvelous. The monument of Aix-en-Provence is this beautiful century-old trees. Can't we look at architecture through the peephole of nature again? Peter Wilson was with us in the jury, and some years ago he made this beautiful sketch. He went to Japan and came back to Europe, and this was called Europe Landschaft, a European, let's say, landscape. And he was also looking at what our normal eyes do not look. All these images I show you, they're very romantic, everybody would share them, we all do, you know, we all somehow share those values, but Europe has infrastructure, cranes, all this. So, in a way, those images which are strong, they avoided us looking at the new Europe, which is maybe look the rest of the world. So, I just took some former Mies Prize things. I don't know if this is exactly the project I'm going to show, but just to say that this attempt to put together, in this case, in a jump cut way, they took the Ardennes, you know, the Dominique Perron Bibliothèque. This is Baptiste Rio. I know it's not very political to talk about Madrid in Catalonia, but just to say that, in a way, the Olympics of, you know, Barcelona taught us two things, I think, to the Euro. One is starting from the open space, design of open space. At that time was not went at all. Second, with the Cinturon and the sea, dealing with infrastructure. So I think the Olympics moment in Barcelona really made not just theoretical change, because when I was a student, Italy produced a lot of books of architecture, and in a way, the Spanish culture was a little bit seductive by the Italian ones. In 3, 4, 5 years, the thing totally reversed. We came here to learn because Italians talk a lot, and you know, for some kind of strange reason, you know, the end of Frankism and the new politics, and a group of architects really managed to do things. So this was a living example, maybe some slogans about modification, Casabella has it. This was real. So open space starting, of course, with architecture, and to see the scale of the city on a new scale, you know, Cinturon, this and that. And I think this was very important. Just to say that this really is, Giovanna Carnevali was saying, the last 25 years, Europe was constructed in a cultural way. I just heard we had 1 million Erasmus babies. So you made 1 million song. There's 1 million little children made by you. There's this famous film is called The Spanish Apartment about the Erasmus people. So there's a new race. You assume going to Erasmus and making babies. It makes you not be so careful when you go to Erasmus. Things around, okay? So there's a new season coming. iPads and Erasmus kids is the new race dominating Europe. Okay? Just to say that these things of the open space, you can see in different ways. It's a thing. So, can we look with fresh eyes at the new alliance between urbanity and open space? I think yes, we're here to do that. And Le Corbusier made this sketch of Europe as a big net of infrastructure. And then I found this very nice map of Europe, high, I don't know what you, maybe you smoke a lot of dope, right side, the outer Central Park, the city center somewhere here, the outdoor here, I don't know the retreat, there. So this, you can take EasyJet as a bus. You go in another neighborhood. So cities of Europe are different neighborhoods. We are close enough to be friends and different enough to have fun to go in some other place. You can almost spend a weekend today in another city. And I think I'm done. Just to say that I think cities are very romantic places, and before giving up with the city, I would think it twice. Thank you very much.
We knew your work, and we really appreciate it. And we didn't know this work as a theoretical approach to the categories. But I'd like to know how your work faces all this vision about simulation, innovation, difficult position between reality and faith. Because some of your work, I find it very real, very urban, in a situation that would say honest, and I would say really manages with would be modern architecture and honesty with materials and telling what real is. So when we listen all these different categories about how real is today to distinguish between commercial and real, and how the avant-garde is finally connected with what is fake. As a professional, I could really do also to see your work. There's no time. But I would like to know how you relate your work with your talk. Thanks.
When I was a student, I hated professors who talk highly, and then I would go, it was not internet, to see the things, and I was very disappointed. So the risk for professor is to use big words. I think the city is made of gutters, traffic lights, roofs, tiles, and we talk about elements, structures. We have, the language of architects is always trying to decentralize, like you have Barbie, and then you have Ken, and Ken, if you take the pants down Ken, you see a strange thing that they did not represent. So you have the girls can have very strange ideas of the way the men are done. So I'm doing the theories like Ken, you're not really representing the world as it is. So as an architect, I am totally in the world. I don't like utopias. I went with my kids, once I went to America, and then I said to my wife said, that's not, she's an architect too, but let's not go to the architecture. I said, Francesca, just one thing, we have to go to the Source Institute when we come. So then we drive, we went to Disney World, we did this, and then we drove to Source Institute, and there was a big guy saying, no, this is private party. And then my wife said to my kids, now see Papa in his famous interpretation. I am an Italian professor, I gave up my mind. Then we went to Accosanti by Soleri, we drove down. And we went there, and you pay $1 to enter. It's so sad, and Soleri was there at the coffee shop. And my kids said, Papa, why did you bring us here? What is this terrible place? Bring us in a good hotel with a heated swimming pool. And they were right, because you realize you cannot generate a city out of the mind of an architect. A city needs many other things, okay? So utopias are usually the saddest and the most deterministic things. So I'm very pleased. So in a way, the answer could be, I live in a split brain. What you saw has nothing to do with what I do every day. My day is, calculating fire escape doors, doing lawyers. 80–90% of my time is there. It's not talking about Sunday Mata or things. But I think that in the back of our mind, more than a lecture about theories, is about common example, we use the word arteries to talk about highways, cells about living cells, lungs to say the green. Even in today's laws, when you go to the city for permission, the detachment between buildings is a corrupted way of these theories. In a way, the present day things is some kind of vulgarization of these theories, in urbanistics, for example. You know. So, more than the lectures about theories, it was the lectures about images we have in the back of our minds. That maybe almost it's like kind of collective unconscious about the city. And some kind of guilt, feeling that modernists have, it's very Freudian problem of in killing the historical city, thinking it would go better, and then sometimes, Saturday afternoon, everybody goes in the center of Rome and they don't stay in. If the new city would be so better, they would stay in the beautiful quarters, and everybody goes in the center. And modern architects are very disappointed. And commercial people know that, and they make commercial center in the shapes of historical city. But today, I think Europe, to be positive, I think we have new places in a more sophisticated, in a way, modernists had to say the degree zero. We said, let's not think about it, let's refound, very few of those models were realized, maybe Chandigarh, where you have total power. The real city is a palimpsest, is an overlay. So, if today, let me make a metaphor. Mondrian tried to start from black, white, red, blue, and yellow. But Andy Warhol took pictures from the newspaper, electric chair magazine, and did post-production. Today, an architect maybe is a disc jockey. We, even technologically so, still the generation of Kodak or De La Sota could still design a window frame. Today, I'm not responsible, and I cannot guarantee totally this window, because in a way I'm post-producing it, I'm deforming it, but I'm not designing the node. We are assembling partially industrial components. So we don't, like in the Gothic cathedral, the master architect is also the one who goes to the quarry. So, I'm not saying we're becoming like DJs, but a little bit. This means that the second generation modern lost some kind of purity, but accepted also the idea that you can use different games at different moments. There's something Wittgenstein says, this is 1930, he says, for a young person of an average intelligence today, the problem is not anymore just to learn a profession and apply it. The question is what game to play and why to play it now. In my profession, I feel that I have some disciplines, maybe the sun rays or some kind of erudition about classical history. I could draw you perfectly the difference between Ionic base and Proto-Victorian base and Attic base. I could draw the orders like you could find in the archives, but is this worth something? In a way, I have to understand if the strategy I do, together with the client, together with the city, in the competency, will go to success, not in a commercial way, in a resistance way, I try to do my best, but just to say that many games are not the right play. You got to get the best. So in a way, it's a very empirical, one would say, method. Of course, all philosophies you have good people and not. For example, I think that in Italy could be. I recently went to visit Torres Blancas with the son of Vita. I went to see the entrance. It was like, say, did your father take some kind of LSD when he was designing it? Because it was psychedelic things, I would say. Then I find out that the same guy who built the Torres Blancas did also the Kodak, what's the name? The only work by Kodak in Madrid. Mirasol. Also went to see the inside of Mirasol, the two interesting things. It was the same construction, and he was, probably a rich guy from, who made a fortune in the 50s, but it was really a utopia. The Torres Blancas was a high-class utopia with a restaurant, a swimming pool. So there's some kind of visionarity in it. It's interesting. But together with the builder, who is probably the typical Italian or Spanish, type of guy who had the money there. It's an interesting piece. So, no, I don't want to talk about benefit. I think that both Guizza and maybe De La Sota or so on, make very different things. Make some masterpieces and some very ugly things. Even they did. Not everything is so good. I think the Santander represented by Guizza is quite mediocre. But I think the Banco de Bilbao, it's an absolute masterpiece. I mean, it's fantastic, the best building, so sophisticated in a way. So maybe, the Beatles did the White Album in 1968, and no one song sounds like the other. In Italy, I would say Albini. Albini made the Treasure San Lorenzo, made the Rinascente in Rome. They consider also the language not as something given, but some part of the game. This can be a little bit eclectic. A friend of mine said, Cino Zucchi, you did the Venice housing, and then you did the Saleva. Now, you have some kind of psychiatric problems. How can a person do two things which are so different? I mean, the Saleva is done partially in collaboration with some younger architects. I don't know if it's more. But I said, no, I take the full responsibility for that. One was a house, a very cheap house in there, that was a landmark building. So, can we respond to single situation in a way, in some kind of ad hoc situation, without losing this kind of, some kind of ethic? I don't want to talk about ethics. Everybody likes ethical, political things. I mean, it seems that the architects are not able to do one single good building without saying you're saving the universe. Some other, and I finish with that. Some other day, somebody came to show me some chairs in the office and said, the mission of our company, our vision. Said, please, can you stop with the vision, with the vision? Can you show me your chairs? If I like them, I buy them. If not, you have to sell 3 chairs by tonight, and I have to get 3 chairs by today. Let's leave a moment the vision, the vision. Every time you do something like that, you say you're saving the world. So, maybe it's good that architects that do not have all this power. They're in the system. This means it's a defense of not a split brain, but something that when you have to work. That's why I was wondering whether to come here with my work on this. Because of the occasion of being the Miss Van der Rohe, I was a judge there. I think my personal attitude, I mean, I have values, I have tastes, let's say, but I felt it was indelicate here to show my work, but I think it's also for the students to see the work because you see what you really are. Like, your parents, they can theorize, then you discover they're human beings. So let's say, I'm quite human in my work, with all the defects and limitations of human. I don't know if I responded
Alguna paraula, observació del Cino Zucchi? Sí, sin duda. N'hi ha més? Bien, yo querría acabar como he empezado, agradeciendo a todos vosotros este hueco en vuestro proyecto. Entendemos que esta intrusión a través de estas maneras de entender la ciudad, esta exposición que Giovanna Carnevali nos invita a seguir presenciando en el vestíbulo, esta espléndida charla mañana de Buck Gordon, quien quiera tener una monografía espléndida para poder consultar en la sala de grados, es sin duda, aunque sea de una manera más sesgada, otra manera de volver a penetrar en nuestro proyecto. Gracias.